You keep showing up for them. The phone rings and you answer it. You step in and fix the immediate problem. You pay the cost, whether that means using your money, giving up your time, or just sacrificing your own peace of mind. And every single time, you walk away feeling completely drained. It is a heavy, quiet kind of exhaustion. You sit in your car or on the edge of your bed, and you wonder why helping someone you care about feels so much like drowning. Then, the exact moment you even think about pulling back, the guilt hits you. You feel terrible just for wanting a break. You worry that stepping away makes you a selfish person. You are afraid that you are being cold, or that you are failing to show the kind of compassion a Christian is supposed to show. I want you to hear this very clearly. Your extreme exhaustion does not mean you have a hard heart. The fact that you are deeply tired does not mean you are failing at love. The real problem is not your heart. The problem is the system you are using to help. It is entirely possible that you are trying to love someone using a method God never actually asked you to use. This is not about learning how to turn your back on people who are hurting. This is about finally learning the difference between real, biblical love and a permanent rescue mission. Because when you throw your energy into a broken helping system, it does not actually bring life to the other person. It just bleeds you dry. If the details of a person's life keep changing, but the way they land in trouble stays exactly the same, pay close attention. You are looking at the first sign of a broken helping system. Think about how the cycle actually works. The alarm rings. Maybe it is a panicked text message. Maybe it is a sudden financial emergency. You rush in to clean up the mess. You smooth over the arguments they started. You cover the gap they created. You do this because you care. You keep hoping that if you just give them a little more breathing room, they will finally turn things around. But watch very closely at what happens after the dust settles. When the fire is put out, do they look back and try to fix how they got there? Do they take any real responsibility for their own choices? Almost never. There is no new ownership. They simply accept the clean slate you just handed them. They go right back to their normal routine, and they stay there until the next inevitable emergency happens. You have to realize that this is not temporary support anymore. This is a recurring rescue cycle. When God gives us grace, it has a clear purpose. His grace is meant to help us grow. It gives us the strength to walk down a better path. But in this relationship, your help is doing the exact opposite. Your help is actually keeping them stuck. It is protecting them from the need to grow up. A person who truly wants to change will use your support as a bridge to finally reach solid ground. If the crisis just keeps looping over and over again, your help has unknowingly become part of the problem. You are not teaching them how to swim. You have just become a permanent life raft in a shallow pool where they could easily just stand up. There is a very real difference between someone who is genuinely weak and someone who is actively running away from responsibility. You can usually spot the difference just by looking at their timing. They do not reach out to you when they are making the bad decisions. They only reach out when the consequences of those decisions finally catch up to them. They call you when the bill is past due, when the relationship is breaking down, or when the pressure simply gets too heavy. Listen closely to what they actually want from you in those moments. They desperately want you to pull them out of the pain, but they completely refuse to look at the behavior that caused the pain in the first place. They want a quick rescue from the symptoms, but they do not want a cure for the disease. They want to drop the heavy bags, but they refuse to stop packing them. When we see someone we love hurting like that, our first human reaction is almost always pity. Pity screams at us to just put out the fire. Pity tells us to make the crying stop and make the problem go away. But pity is a terrible guide for your life. Pity will make you focus entirely on making the other person comfortable while leaving the actual root of their problem completely untouched. God does not just want people to be comfortable, He wants them to be transformed. He calls us to bring truth and grace, not just a free pass for destructive choices. So, before you step in to fix things again, You have to stop and ask yourself a very honest question. Is this person actually looking for change? Or are they just looking for someone to help them escape the fallout? It is incredibly hard to watch someone you care about go through pain. When you see them struggling, your first instinct is to rush in and soften the blow. You want to make the hard parts go away. But you have to realize that not every painful moment in a person's life needs to be fixed by you. Through a biblical lens, we see a very different picture of how consequences work. Some hard results are not actually meant to break a person. They are meant to wake them up. Think about a time in your own life when you finally changed a bad habit or turned away from a wrong path. Chances are, you didn't change just because someone gave you good advice. You changed because you finally hit a wall. You felt the real, heavy weight of your own choices, and that weight forced you to look for a better way. When you constantly wedge yourself between the other person and the fallout of their choices, you are doing something dangerous. You think you are keeping them safe. But what you are actually doing is standing in the way of the truth. You are blocking the exact lesson that the pain is trying to teach. If you always lay down a soft cushion before they hit the ground, they will never truly realize that they are falling. Please hear this. Letting someone face the natural result of their actions is not a rejection of love. It is not the same thing as abandoning them in their darkest hour. Letting them feel the consequence is simply refusing to fight against the reality God might be using to reach them. Sometimes, a person will never look up to God for help until they are completely flat on their back. If you are always there to catch them first, they may never realize they actually need Him. Think back to the very last time you agreed to help this person. I want you to remember how your body felt in that exact moment. Did you feel a deep, quiet peace about your decision? Or did you just feel a heavy, rushing pressure? One of the clearest signs that your helping system is broken actually has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with you. It happens when you agree to step in far too quickly, simply to make your own uncomfortable feelings go away. You don't actually have peace about getting involved. You do not have clarity. What you have is a loud voice in your head, telling you that if you say no, you are a bad friend. You are a selfish family member. You are just not acting like a good Christian should. It is completely normal to want people to think well of you. But we need to get something very straight about how God operates. Guilt is not the voice of the Holy Spirit. When God's Spirit leads you, He brings conviction. Conviction brings truth, clarity, and a path forward. Guilt does none of that. Guilt just brings panic. It brings a frantic pressure to perform, to keep the peace, and to make sure nobody is mad at you. When you let guilt drive the car, you completely lose your ability to see what is wise. You will find it almost impossible to say no, even when the absolute most loving answer is, "Not today," or "I will help you, but in a different way." If your choices are built entirely on the fear of looking mean, you are no longer helping out of grace. You are just managing your own anxiety. Take a hard look at the long-term result of your help. Over time, is this person becoming stronger, or are they becoming weaker? Healthy support always creates more responsibility. It gives people the tools they need to eventually build their own life. But a broken helping system does the exact opposite. It slowly trains the other person to be helpless. Watch how they start to act. They get totally comfortable letting you do the heavy lifting. You become the one who has to make the awkward phone calls for them. You are the one tracking their deadlines. You are the one quietly paying the late fees or making the excuses so they do not look bad. If your consistent help makes them less active in their own life, that is a huge red flag. Notice their attitude when they mess up. Are they humble, or do they just expect you to fix it? And most importantly, look at their spiritual life. Are they praying and relying on God for their daily bread? Or is it just easier to send you a text message when they need something? If your presence makes them less likely to turn to God, something is deeply wrong with the arrangement. Real help does not paralyze a person. We are not supposed to do the daily work that rightfully belongs to someone else. If you are doing all the sweating, all the planning, and all the paying, you need to realize what has happened. You are no longer assisting a traveler on their journey. You have just picked up a permanent passenger. Let's talk about the actual role you are playing in this person's life. There are certain relationships where the other person has completely given up on personal growth. They are no longer looking for wisdom or direction. They are only looking for your availability. Think about who they immediately call when things go wrong. You have become the main destination for every single crisis. Whenever they have a bad day, or face a hard choice, or feel an empty space in their life, they bring it straight to you. Gradually, without even realizing it, the dynamic shifts. You are no longer just a supportive friend or a loving family member. You have become their load-bearing wall. They treat you like their personal anti-collapse system. If you step away for even a moment, it feels like their whole world is going to fall apart. But I need to tell you the truth about that kind of pressure. You were never called to be a mini savior for someone else's life. When you allow yourself to sit at the absolute center of someone else's survival, you are picking up a rock that is way too heavy for you. God did not build human shoulders to carry the full weight of another human soul. That level of extreme, desperate dependence actually has a purpose. It is supposed to push them back to God. They are supposed to reach the end of themselves and realize that He is the only one who can truly hold them together. But if you are always stepping in to be their ultimate safety net, you are standing in a space that only God is meant to occupy. I want you to ask yourself a very sobering question. Where are you pulling the resources from to keep saving this relationship? Your resources are not infinite. We usually only think about limits when it comes to our bank accounts, but you also have a limit on your time, your mental focus, your patience, and your deep emotional bandwidth. When you say yes to jumping into another one of their crises, that energy has to come from somewhere. So who is paying the price for it? If this one dynamic is constantly draining your energy, what is left over at the end of the day? Usually, it means you have absolutely nothing left for your spouse. You have less patience for your kids. You lose your own peace of mind, your time to rest, and the focus you need for the real responsibilities you hold. That is no longer healthy helping. That is a leak in your system. Through a biblical lens, this is a matter of stewardship. We often talk about stewardship in the church as if it only applies to giving money. But stewardship is about managing everything God has handed you, including your compassion and your daily energy. You have to understand that stewardship is not selfishness. Being careful with your time is not cruel. Stewardship is the intentional management of your energy so that you still have the strength to say yes to the exact assignments God actually gave you. Boundaries do not war against love. Boundaries are what ensure your love is deployed in the right direction, rather than just bleeding out on the floor in places it was never meant to go. For the next 7 days, I want to give you a very small, practical challenge. When the phone rings, or when that next familiar text message comes in asking for help, do not answer right away. Just pause. Give yourself 10 minutes. Taking a pause is not a rejection. It is not you being cold or uncaring. That pause is simply giving wisdom the space to speak before your guilt takes over. During that brief gap, before you type anything back, I want you to ask yourself 3 very grounded questions. First, am I actually helping them grow right now, or am I just saving them from a consequence? Second, is there any actual effort or ownership coming from their side? Third, what is saying yes to this going to steal from my true responsibilities today? I want you to hear this and let it settle deep in your heart. You do not have to rescue everyone to prove that you are a loving person. You do not have to live exhausted to prove that you are a good Christian. You only need to be faithful. You only need to see clearly. And you only need to be humble enough to put down the heavy weight God never actually asked you to carry. If you are realizing today that you have been helping out of guilt rather than out of clarity, I want you to write a short sentence in the comments below. just as a firm reminder to yourself. I will help with wisdom, not with panic.